Welcome to this week. What we're doing, we discussed this week the theory. In our theory sessions, we will have a look at Bertolt Brecht's. Bertolt Brecht is a German dramatist. Find the reading below. These are 15 pages. 15 pages, nothing. Okay, two texts from Bertolt Brecht. He originally wrote them in German. These texts that are selected for you are translations into English. Please read them. Super easy to read compared to what we covered so far. This is super important. Okay, so please read them now, and then you come back and continue the video. Okay. Thank you for coming back. Let's discuss Bertolt Brecht. So Bertolt Brecht is a German dramatist who really shaped modern or articulated or voiced modern or even postmodern ideas of drama, of storytelling. With Bertolt Brecht, we make a jump. We cover the last stuff. We cover this Aristotle, then over the monomyth, and that claims to be to cover material that is thousands of years old. We could have made a jump. This jump we could cover it before other genres in storytelling, but Brecht is beautiful because he harshly opposes Aristotle. So in the text you read, so it's two things that are important to understand with Brecht. First, the epic theater, what is meant by the idea of epic theater. Second, the alienation effect. The text you read, it starts directly by opposing Aristotle. If you remember, Aristotle formulated dramatic theory by particularly focusing on the tragedy, and says the epic format is different, but a little bit similar. Epic is has more narrative elements to it. And what Brecht is doing is that he takes the idea of Elios, that is pity, that you have pity with the main character, that is that the audience, you as an audience member, starts to associate, to empathize with the character. So that means that you need to buy in the illusion of the story to take on the world of the character, which is mainly focused when you consider Hollywood theater. It's this much effort is put into the trickery, the technological trickery that makes you believe that you're watching a real world with beautiful hyper photorealistic graphics. If you look at the development and cinema, Brecht cuts that off. Okay, and this is so let's look at what two quotes from Brecht, and he tries to articulate that based on Eastern Eastern aesthetics. He particularly looks at Chinese performers. Okay, so for him, the Chinese performer does not act as if, in addition to the three walls around him, there were also a fourth. He makes it clear that he knows he is being looked at. Thus, one of the illusions of the European stage is set aside. Okay, so if you think of a stage, of theater stage, it has three walls, the back and the one back wall and the two side walls, and then it pretends there's another wall, the wall separating audience from stage. Okay, so the characters job in traditional storytelling, or in the Western tradition, tries to pretend there is no one watching. This now, with Brecht, he underlines that this is only one possible approach, and there's another approach, is that the performer, the actor, does not pretend there is really a fourth wall. Yeah, it doesn't even break the fourth wall. The character doesn't even acknowledge that there is a fourth wall. Okay, so the actor and every stage during the performance makes it clear that he knows he's being watched. Okay, this is a very important key notion. Okay, so that means you do not feed the illusion. You want to point it out as it being an illusion. The performer wishes to appear alien to the spectator, alien to the point of arousing surprise. This he managed by seeing himself and his performance as alien. Okay, so this is the German original talks about the alienation effect is basically in German a Verfremdungseffekt. And Verfremdung means a kind of estrangement. Okay, and alien comes from Greek. It means other. So if you see an alien, it is a being that is utterly other than you. Oh, this alien to me, that means it's so different to you. It is so other to you. And in the epic performance, as Brecht articulates it, that is what you empathize. Okay, so the performer, so there is not a association that happens between actor and audience. Look, audience, this is a character whose life you should associate with. No. It is underlined that this entity that you are observing is utterly other than you. It is an alien. And out from that, it gains an aesthetic experience from that as its basis. Okay, and that includes the character, the performance for the character itself. So my acting, my character that I play to be, even that is alien to me, it's other than me. I'm not really getting into the skin of this character that I play. I maintain a certain, let's call it critical distance to the character. Okay, so this is important. This is the alienation effect. Then there is a beautiful, in the text that I present to you, there's a beautiful table that Brecht puts together, where you have the dramatic form and the epic form side by side in comparison. Okay, let's go through it. In the dramatic form, the stage incarnates an event. The epic form, it relates to it. The important part is that the dramatic form tries to simulate, absorb the events as best as possible. So it tries to embody them. Okay, in epic there remains a distance to it. Yeah, that's a distant relationship to it. So dramatic form involves the audience in an action, uses up its activity. So what is the audience doing in the dramatic form? It is observing those actions that are performed for them. Okay, so they are the actions, the activities absorbed into the play. In the epic form, the epic makes the audience an observer but arouses its activity. It does not want to lull them into illusion, to put them to sleep, but tries to activate them and think along and engage them in a critical capacity. The dramatic form helps it to feel, helps the audience to feel, and the epic form compels the audience to make decisions. This is one difference. If you say the dramatic form tries to put people to sleep, epic form tries to wake them more up. Dramatic form communicates experiences. Epic form communicates insights. Dramatic, the audience is projected into an event. Epic, it is confronted with it. Dramatic, suggestion is used. Epic, arguments are used. Dramatic, sensations are preserved. Epic, impelled to the level of perceptions. Dramatic, the character is a known quantity. Epic, the character is subjected to investigation. Dramatic, man is unchangeable, epic man who can change and make changes. Dramatic, his drives, epic, his motives. Dramatic, events move in a straight line, epic, in irregular curves. Dramatic, natura non facit saltus, epic, facit saltus. That means natura non facit saltus means nature doesn't do saltos, that means jumps. So nature doesn't jump, it doesn't makes no leaps. So there are no big gaps in events. So things happen slowly after another. In the epic, facit saltus is it makes big jumps. Dramatic, the world as it is. Epic, the world as it is becoming. Like a core thing with Brecht is an alienation, is a little bit a hint to it, is Brecht is a Marxist. And with Marxism, with Karl Marx, the philosopher, Marxism thinks in a dialectical materialism, in a historical dialectic. That means that history is ought to work in a particular process that unfolds, and man is to facilitate and support this process. Okay, so it's becoming aware of certain states in society and then trying to impact them and change them in agreement with a desired historical development, to simplify it for our purpose a little bit. So we have another one, dramatic versus epic. Here focusing on the audience. The audience in dramatic theater says, yes, I have felt that too. That's how I am. That is only natural. That will also be so. This person's suffering shocks me because he has no way out. This is great art. Everything in it is self-evident. I weep with the weeping. I laugh with the laughing. Okay, so the basic is eleos. That means pity, empathy. You participating and flowing with the story, with the main character. In the audience in the epic theater says, I wouldn't have thought that. People shouldn't do things like that. That's extremely odd, almost unbelievable. This has to stop. This person's suffering shocks me because there might be a way out for him. This is great art. Nothing in it is self-evident. I laugh over the weeping, I weep over the laughing. Okay, so this tries to say that the piece that you just watched is just a possibility, and you need to think about that, if that is a possibility that should be or should not be. So it compels people to think about society, how things about justice and so on. Okay, so it becomes in Brecht's words, it becomes an educational and a didactic instrument. And maybe you recognize something from Plato in Brecht. So basically, you also could say that with Brecht, story narration, the narrative storytelling rediscovers its Platonic, its Platonian call to critique what is true and what is not. Okay, like a critical instrument. Storytelling is a critical instrument, not following for deception, but questioning the deception. Okay, so let's relate that back to what we did with back to the myth, Plato's myth of the cave. Okay, so let's make a transition. If I can do it. Okay. Oops. So back to the cave. So we have so when you remember the cave, okay, so we have down there, deep below, a little fire. We have people sitting in front of the fire and watching the shadows that are projected by this fire. Okay, so this is the cave analogy, and this is just an appearance, apparent reality. This two-dimensional projection is only how reality appears to be, but really it is three-dimensional outside. This is fake light. Okay, so important. So theory and theater have the same root. It's a spectacle. A theory is a stage, a made-up construction. It most literally means something like sightseeing. Okay, a theory is like a sightseeing, a stage that is a model of reality, but not reality itself. It's a model of reality. Like a stage is a model of a reality, a story is a model of reality. Okay, so with Aristotle, okay, so if we go with the tradition and say these are the characters and we have pity for them because they suffer a lot, and we start to identify with them, or better said, this, if you think about this character watching a story, a movie in the cinema, projection in the cinema, these subjects identify with the objects through a bonding, through pity and fear. They really are lulled into the sleep, lulled into the story. Yeah, this is a world where this and that happens, where this character needs to do that, and so on. And these subjects fall in for those objects. Okay, with Brecht, this is something that is to be questioned. The bonding between audience and what they see, and also between actors and the role they play. Okay, so in Brecht, ultimately then, when you see a character that plays another character, questioning themselves, their relationship to the role they play, you see you have, who am I? Says the character. So hopefully that impacts the audience. For them also to question that. Okay? So in the projection of subject and object, and hopefully, then if you should get out and you see then the so-called truth, thinking, asking yourself, do you also play a role? Okay, so this true truth, is this true truth now true, or also just playing? And if so, And if there's also you, the great, brilliant sun, if you're also just playing, yeah, what role should I play? Okay, so this is if all is made up, how should it be made up? This is a critical question. So if you dream, okay, yes, okay, we all dream, it's all an illusion, but how should we dream? What kind of dream should we dream? Okay, so let's contemplate that a little bit. And back to the thing. Okay, so okay, let's check that a little bit more. Okay, so we have the relationship between truth and not truth, the poetical aesthetical relationship that an audience has with the character, that a character has with the actor that plays the character. This is now up for investigation with Brecht. Okay, and Brecht didn't really invent alienation, did not invent epic theater. There are many old traditions, a lot of thinking and thoughts that go into that, but he was the one who critically articulated that and made it an intellectual endeavor to pursue in the not so classical way of storytelling. Okay, so for those of you who wanna invoke critical thoughts, critical questions concerning the question of truth and untruth, at some point I think you need to get in touch with what Bertolt Brecht is talking about. And it's a rediscovery of Plato. With Aristotle soothed, made it all right in keep pursuing mimesis as long as you follow certain structural elements. This got to the point today where we, with the super advanced technological trickery, we came to lack the fundamental skills to figure out what is true and what is not true. In our advanced technological area that we have, the question of truth with fake truth and alternative truth and so on is more question than ever. And voices like Brecht remind us, and even if you say, okay, Plato started it all, and so with his with the this idea of the idea and so on, you still have an element of criticism and carefulness in Plato. Plato is still a critical voice that tells you not to fall for beliefs and assumptions. Okay, Plato with Socrates and with Aristotle and so on is not able to give you guidance on how to figure it out. This is a subject that we need to turn to the pre-Socratics to figure it out. It has been figured out and it's figure outable. But Plato is still a critical voice that puts question marks to widely acknowledged facts that maybe are not so factual and maybe also just very believable beliefs. Okay, so consider this in your storytelling. This critical relationship that you have with the audience, that your character has, the actor has with the character, that you have with your creation that is your character, that you have with the audience, and to consider the audience as part of the play. And this is a much richer discourse if you go, if you want to be more experimental with your approaches. Okay, so consider what we talked about, how it relates to your practice. This is very rich and dense. Digest it, and yeah, I hope it gave you some aha moments or of some sort of that. Okay, good. So that is. Thank you for this week's sessions of theory, and I wish you the best. See you in another session.